I am going to do the part number 2 of Battle of Cuito Cuanavale. Cuito Cuanavale. I wasn't going to do that, but tonight I had a mind opening thanks to Cuito Cuanavale. I did explain about how future battle of Cuito Cuanavale was solved, and here I am ready to give you a total details. Who sold one, maybe almost for how much. Russians were the one, they purchased it, and now let me give you a detailed explanation. This is just going to be part number 2. This is a newer kitchen. We used to have an old house in the city, and funny, when I consider this video about the Cuito, the sale, the deal for the Cuito Cuanavale was done in 1979, 1980 was the sale done. I remember this because British royals accused me of being a traitor. They had done something to me. I told you about the torture at Cuito Cuanavale, and they did this in such a way that I 9 years of age I gave up on the Cuito Cuanavale. I didn't want to have nothing to do with it, and it was about the sale. And there's a kitchen like this one here in a house that we moved in finally, like in, I don't know what year was it, 1980, 1982, something like this, 1984, 1982. Actually, sorry, yeah, 1982, something like that. But it was not this house. It was not this house. It was just a house like this. He told me, his name I think was Janez Bulc, one of the Krka pharmaceutical directors. This is something I had never mentioned yet this is what enormously a lot was done through what I will explain to you right now. His name is Janez Bulc, and he was a brother of Marko Bulc. Janez Bulc. You don't get to see one here anywhere, but this was in a category of Marko Bulc was basically in a category of Milan Kucan. These were all big hardcore UDBA people. They were coming in our house. This is all KGB, top KGB people. And his brother was less KGB. He was the director of Krka Pharmaceutical. You cannot see him anymore. He died in a car accident in Croatia. And just about already for some time now, for quite some time. I don't know, 15 years ago or something like that, long time ago. The Cuito Pharmaceutical had not only one director, but the Cuito Pharmaceutical had more directors. Let's say Shawnee also passed away. This was also one of the directors. But the general director was always only one, you know. And so it was not a house like this. It was not this house, right? But the guy said, talking about the British royals, he said, if I'm not already barely waiting to have also a house like this. And we were pretty much in all these Slovenian houses, newer houses, they had structure like this. Very modern structure when compared to old city house from Novo Mesto, where I originally am from. And now you get the idea where British royals were arriving, when they were arriving for the meetings with the Russians, with others, Germans, in the Novo Mesto. My father would put me inside of the car, and he would drive me to locations where they had this MK Ultra sessions, negotiations, and it was exactly what British royals said. Soon you're also gonna have a house just like this, new, all this, and so on and so forth. And my father was all crazy about this. He barely waited to complete this house so he could host the Illuminatis inside. It was a big thing. Whoever got to host them, this was an extremely high honor for the people. And the way Cuito Cuanavale was sold in 1979, 1980 by the British royals, they will say to you that that's not true. There was somebody else who did that stuff, some American or something like that. No, that's not true. Yeah, the British royals don't have anything invested in China. The British royals don't have, when they deal with stuff, business, and they don't come to you and say, hey, you know, I want to purchase, you know, here, you know, they have people, they deal with the governments, because British royals are a government. This is a British government. So what they do is they'll sit at the table with the Russians, and then whatever would be of their interest, they would create agreement, and then they would have their people follow up on agreement which they have made with the Russian government or whatever other government. So I'm just giving you precisely the idea about how this stuff is done. And so it was a sale. It was a financial sale. I think it was the number 200 or 300 million. I have no fucking idea. It was some kind of transaction. It could be for, I think it was for some kind of mining or something like that. Diamonds. Literally, it was a sale, it was a business. I was proclaimed as a traitor. This happened in Slovenia. I was practically a child. And proclaimed as a traitor, cursed literally by the royals because they video recorded themselves for everything. Andrew can explain all about that stuff, what the fuck he was doing. And then they follow up on that sale again about 2 years later, whatever the fuck they have done, and that will be done the latest sometimes like in 1982, 1983. That's about like 4 years before this armed conflict in 1987. So this is basically de facto a sale we're talking about, with what became urgency to get this stuff done to protect whites inside of the South Africa. So it did not end with my being guilty for it. It's interesting because they collect the money, and for whatever they collected the money, I was guilty. I was called traitor by the British Royals and that kind of stuff. But in fact, they found justification in literally, transition of the apartheid system into post-apartheid, South African apartheid, Nelson Mandela time. So there is absolutely no question that Cuito Cuanavale was a sale. One of the worst things that happened during MK Ultra must have been Cuito Cuanavale. I never felt any guilt about it. This Cuito Cuanavale actually helped me out. It opened my eyes about this Kirka pharmaceutical directors who would host in the newer homes, in the newer residences, also people from overseas, American SIA, British, Germans, and so on. And the father would just put me inside of the car, and he would go like crazy. He would drive like crazy to deliver me. And it was funny because during MK Ultra, it would be Serbs that would come in our house in the city of the Novo Mesto. Are you ready? Is he ready? Are you ready? Let's go. Let's go. Family, friends, and they would drive me to the location where they would be doing already since my early childhood. This is the way it went. It was not in one house. This, what I described to you right now, have taken place in several different residences. It also happened that one residence was not available for whatever reason. There would be another one that would accommodate, and so on and so forth and so on and so forth. And so, yeah, I would know something about this, absolutely everything. This was probably the last obstacle that I did not manage to recall, and probably to the people who witnessed me inside of the houses, in houses of other people, this must have been a strange, weird situation. I remember the people now when I recall this stuff, because I was asking myself, how the fuck is it 1979 we did not have a house like this? And they keep coming to me on my memory, the house with a table like this, modern, newer, everything bright inside, like this kitchen. Another location that there was a lot of Illuminati stuff that went on, enormously a lot of Illuminati stuff, till my father completed the house here, was the house of Boris Andrianic, the general director, the first general director of the Kirka Pharmaceutical, who practically started this company in his house, in his home, in the city. You know, it reminded of long chess play. You know, when you go play chess like on a tournament and you're like fucking crazy. You sit at the table and you just go all day fucking long until, you know, your brain almost fucking give up on you basically for 8 hours, or sometimes even from the morning to the night completely. And it depends what goes on. And the only difference is that, you know, you jucked up and, you know, it's all other people that, you know, kind of a do for you, and you're just there basically, and just long, exhausting fucking hours. You hear people talking to one another and so on. That kind of stuff. But you jucked up. But what I'm trying to say is these guys could go fucking night and day together when they sit. For me it was impossible. But you got like brain killed used to it. These negotiations, these talks, this blah 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 that went on. Shit. It's like every time was like they met the fucking first time. Instead of going fucking sleep, they fucking debated all fucking night long and so on and so on and so on and so on. Fuck. Horror. And this is how Cuito Pharmaceutical was built. And this is how practically everything was built. Cuito Cuanavale case for me is now closed. I totally reveal you absolutely everything about the Cuito Cuanavale, that if you participated in it, and here the stuff I'm saying, those that participated in it, that goes to 37 years ago. Is it 37? That's 25. That's 25, and then it's 10, and that's 35. Yeah, it goes to over 37 years ago. For the survivors of this war. What I like about this war is that both sides made peace with one another. I really like that, because really was not fault from anybody about the stuff that went on. You know, 37 years ago, in a way I am fortunate to talk to you about this shit, because I was a teenager, which is kind of insane. But the guys who were fighting the war, they were not teenagers. Many of those guys already died because of the age. And so, definitely it's a little bit late, but you can trust me absolutely. This truth would never ever be revealed to you if it wasn't for me. Nobody would reveal this truth. This was all the shit that was negotiated between the Russians and between, you know, Western, American Central Intelligence Agency, British. British were the main switchboard. And I just feel these guys don't give a fuck. They don't care about anybody. They care about themselves. They never went broke. This did not happen the first time. It was not first time with the Cuito Cuanavale that British would make money. British always did this. Always did this filthy, dirty, disgusting, treacherous thing that I stated to you right now. It wasn't the first one. It wasn't the last one. It was something truly disgusting they would do. However, they would not leave me with the psychological consequences. I never felt guilty for it, for their stuff, like I said, they were doing. But the stuff that I talked to you about in part number one, that's the one that left psychological consequences on me. That was never acceptable. Even today, when I started to browse the internet in the morning to research about this Cuito Cuanavale, I realized that it's far from settled in me. It just anger got me as soon as I saw this pictures of the Cuito Cuanavale, when I saw these soldiers I got immediately this feeling of betrayal, of the treason, the one I really don't like, that kind of feeling, knowing that this was a battle that was stolen. I felt like it was stolen from me. And yeah, I was in a war with the Russians, and I realized that this shit did not settle down in me. Then I realized there was something they referred to as a victory for me. And even right now, as I'm talking about, this is the funny part about all this stuff. That victory part is just not appealing, it's just not interesting. That means that I was so brainwashed to see myself as in a war, in a competition with Russians, that even that stuff that would count as a victory or whatever, it's just the shit that I was not concentrated on. I was just concentrated on the stuff that British royals were not doing. That's what, and that's exactly what I was concentrated on. I was concentrated on the cause, on the progress of the cause, on the war, basically. I was concentrated on the war issues and the war results. I was concentrated on global overall situation, on the Soviet Union, on Russia, and on Serbia, which I could possibly not even stand. And so maybe from certain perspective, that's maybe even rational. Maybe they were not subjected to the same mistreatment I was in Yugoslavia. They were not subjected to the same issues, but still I consider this type of attitude sickness. It was so bad for me upon the loss of this thing that I even turned away from the whole thing, that I didn't want. It was traumatic shit. It was truly traumatic stuff. It was extremely traumatic. And like I said, I didn't even want to see white people anymore. I didn't want to see not the white people, but I don't want to have nothing to do with the military that was white. When they transferred me from the white battalion, whatever that was, into semi-white, black mixed environment, I just didn't want to be there, because it was always like that. That where there was a mixed environment, I always had problems, and so I wanted the whites of the picture for the first time. I didn't want to have them anywhere even near me. I demanded to go completely black battalion. They told me that I'm insane, that I don't even know what the fuck I talk about. I said, yeah, I do know what the fuck I talk about. I was extremely determined. Now the black people, now they have the black people, they started to discourage me from entry into complete black military. Can you fucking imagine this? They paid blacks to discourage me from being next to them. You know what I mean? Like a black soldier. As the only one. This would be usually reserved for the poor people, for those that they would not want to consider, for those that were even suspicious about, you know what I mean, about, you know, about their whereabouts, military whereabouts. It's like lowest group where you have all kinds of people inside, infantry. But that's exactly where the fuck I wanted to be. That's exactly where I wanted to be. And they couldn't get me out. As I stated, they started to claim that I'm mentally ill and stuff like this. I did not have any fucking problem with the black. As soon as the whites were of the picture, no more problems. Or you go black, black, or you go white, white. You know what I mean? Black and white, that's always a problem. It was always a problem. My rebellion lasted for at least 2 years. I didn't want to have nothing to do with the white soldiers. And when they would deliver me to the white soldiers, I really started to cause them mental problems. I really started to screw them in their head. They were just not used to something like that. First time they became prejudged. I started to prejudge them. I just fucking rejected them. And I would hear oftentimes, oh, and here it goes again. You know, this is the way it was, this shit. For 2 years. And Polacks, by the way, Polacks had a lot to do with my getting back. You know, my accepting again white military environment. This is the way this stuff was. So I clarified you absolutely everything about the sale of Cuito Cuanavale, who did it, how exactly it took place. First time, 1979, 1980. This was a transaction that went on for about a year and a half. And by the way, Donald Trump knows about this stuff. The second time, it was in 1983, and that was a finalization. And it's just not stopped there. 1983, 1984, they were still continuing to work on this stuff. Yeah, they were losing the support for the apartheid in South Africa, and that's where the war for the Cuito Cuanavale was lost. British always collected money, always collected the money, always collected the money. This must be the most disgusting people on planet Earth. This must be the most disgusting people ever. They must be the most disgusting people. They always collected the money, and to tell you the truth, that kind of money, I don't know what they make. That's the kind of money I would not want to know anything about. That is the filthiest money that you can make. There is nothing filthier than that. And it also makes me understand how much I was worried in this whole process. People who can do the stuff like this, there is nothing they cannot do it. People like this can do absolutely anything. They'll do absolutely anything. Because all they care is about their own ass.